My Patreon supporters got to see previews, work-in-progress shots, and high-resolution images of the figure once I completed it. They also get minifigures every time they add up to $10 in support. If you want to join them, even the smallest donation helps. The link is in the description below. Hello friends, this is Wakeangel2K1 coming at you with the last champion from Breath of the Wild, Falco! Revali! Falco Lombardi! Seriously, this guy is so Falco, like his name even rhymes. Falco Lombardi, Revali, Lombardi Revali. Come on, you gotta see it. That's a Nintendo rhyme right there. I'm sure they rhyme even better in Japanese than they do in English. So yes, this was the last of the 4 champions that I encountered in my playthrough, meaning that I did go through a large portion of the game without being able to use Revali's Gale, which made it quite the fun experience when I had to climb so many mountains. You know that spire in the eye of the Skull Lake thing? I'm pretty sure it took me 15 real-world minutes to climb that thing. Like, yeah, seriously. Okay, so, Revali. His height is roughly comparable to Urbosa's, so I would need a figure that was a little bit shy of 6 inches tall, roughly 5.5. It's almost a full 6 if you count to the very top of his feather crest, but, you know, his eye line is a little bit below Urbosa's. So the base toy was, Alpha 5 from the, Power Rangers movie line. I chose this figure because he has the right number of toes, he has short legs, and really long arms, just like a Rito. Only problem is that his torso is really short, way too short to be a proper Rito torso. So what I did was I cut him in half, and I filled in that space in the middle with the forearm from the egg pawn that I used to make the Heavy King figure. So yes, even in this situation, there is a part of a Sonic figure. Although this time it's completely covered over by sculpt. It's just there so that I didn't have to use as much sculpting material and, you know, hold it a little straighter. I didn't want him to slump while I was waiting for the epoxy to harden, you know? By the way, this is also one of those figures that can't be dismantled because of the type of plastic that it's made out of. So that means that it took me about twice as long to make everything because, you know, once I made one part, I had to wait for it to completely harden before I could move on to making the other part. When I dismantle figures, I can make multiple parts at the same time because they're separate pieces. But here, I had to be careful not to accidentally smush something. So that means making the thighs one at a time. But eventually, I was able to sculpt those big old turkey drumsticks that he calls thighs, along with all of his other little details, like his stomach and his shin guards and his little talons. I stuck on a little tail made out of craft foam. You know, I just decided the flexibility would be better because I wouldn't have to worry about it snapping or anything like that, or throwing the figure off balance for being too heavy. And his armor, as you can see, I traced it out with pencil first in the earlier pictures, but now you can see it all sculpted up. I basically use the amiibo as a guide here because, well, you know, I have a little statue of the figure, may as well use that as a base for how the actual action figure is made, right? Now, the feathers on his wings are actually made out of craft foam, the same thick black craft foam that I used to make Infinite's ears. And his arms are sculpted over, of course. The little bit of feathers on his bicep, on his upper arm, he has a little bit of feathers that I sculpted on. And as you can see, what I did was I sculpted over all the chunks of his forearm, and then I overlaid the clay on top of it. Not the clay, the foam on top of that, making a channel so that once this hardened, it would form something that I could glue the craft foam into and it would seat. Because I wanted to give it a little bit of a curl, not just be a straight up, you know, straight thing coming out. Like, because, you know, the Rito have feather fingers. I could write a doctoral thesis upon how that is physically impossible for birds to have, but, you know, I just decided to just roll with it and add a little bit of a curl to at least one of his hands so that it could look like he has a gesticulating gesture. I also used soft goods, more craft foam to make his skirt, and my mother helped me make some braids. They are 3 very thin strips of craft foam, which are actually braided. So yeah, those are real braids. The last thing I made was his head. It's sculpted around, you know, the Alpha 5 head, so there you go. And he does have some little craft foam shoulder armor pads as well. This is, of course, to make them flexible so that they won't get in the way, blah, blah, blah. So that's all the parts. Let's take a look at the completed Revali figure so you can all see how amazing I am. I am so congested. Can you tell I did this entire recording with a stuffy nose? I think for the first time in my life I'm actually getting summer allergies. I never used to get allergies, and this sucks. What doesn't suck is the Revali figure, because holy crap, this thing is awesome! I love the way he came out. He's so colorful and bright. And of course he has a scarf made out of the same type of fabric I used to make Urbosa's skirt. And, you know, he has all the posability and articulation that the Alpha 5 figure did. I wish he had more, like maybe some bicep swivels and some ankle articulation, but, you know, it's a Bandai figure. You get what you pay for with Bandai. Or rather, you don't get what you pay for with Bandai, because Bandai sucks. But the Alpha 5 figure was just good enough. So, yeah, that's it. That's all for the champions. Go me! So, this has been Wakeangel2K1. Remember to support my Patreon. I'm signing off.